Today in this video, we're going to go over part 2 of how to get a mortgage in 2025 for my first time home buyers. And this video is all about your income. Check it out. Hi, I'm Rhonda Burgess, and I'm a real estate broker and mortgage underwriter of 27 years here in the Nashville, Tennessee area. And my firm is Southern Living Realty Partners. All right, we're going to keep it rolling. Part two. Deuces. We're going to talk about income. The first video, I'll link it below. We talked about your credit. How to make sure of what's on your credit, what your credit score is, how you need a 660 or higher credit score, and how you need to check the credit score of anyone who's going to be on that mortgage with you. Okay. So now we're going to talk about your income. It's been some years since I've done originations of mortgages, but that's like one of the first things you always, when we start talking to people, we'd be like, okay, how much money do you make? I know that seems like a simple question, but it's not. Because for a lot of people, it's not simple. Okay. This is why you need to go get started on figuring out your income beforehand. Get your check stubs, get your tax returns together before you talk to a mortgage person, before you even start looking at houses or whatever. Get your income together. And by income, we mean everything. If you get an alimony, you got a divorce, whatever. And it's for the men and the ladies, because everybody anybody can pay alimony these days. Is that alimony to continue until when? If you get married, does it stop? Is it a set number of years? Where are you at in that process? If you got alimony for 3 years following your divorce and you've only got a year left of getting that alimony, it's not going to count. It's not going to count. No. You're going to need to have at least a 2-year history of that income continuing to come in, period. And we're going to need to see a payment history of where you've been receiving it. Listen, if you're getting child support, alimony, anything like that, don't get it in cash. Don't let folk just giving you cash money. No. It needs to go through some type of system, whether it's child support, the courts, something. If you are receiving it that way, tell that person to either Cash App you, Venmo, Zelle, something, because I know we all about these apps these days. I was going to say, tell them to write you a check. I know half of y'all don't know how to write a check, and we don't do checks anymore, but checks is a good thing when you need a paper trail. Okay. But at least with a bank statement and your Cash App or whatever, you have a history of receiving those payments. You're going to need to provide history of where you've received the payments. You're going to need documentation showing how long those payments last. If you are getting child support, we're going to need to see the child support order, and we're going to need a birth certificate for that baby. I don't care if that baby's 17 years old. I still call them babies. They're your children's. So we're going to need to see a birth certificate, because if that child is going to reach the age when that support stops within the next 2 years, it won't be counted as income. I don't make the rules. These are the rules. I'm just telling you what the rules say. Okay. And that's for all of your mortgages. I don't care if it's FHA, USDA, VA, conventional. We want to see a 2-year history that you will receive it for 2 years following closing. Excuse me. Back on still on the income. Are you paid hourly? Where are your check stubs at? Get your check stubs together beforehand. If you only get them in the portal and online, download them. Email them to yourself. Email them to somebody. Start a new email account, if nothing else, where you can keep up with all your documents. Because there's nothing worse. I'm telling you, we get irritated as an underwriter. If I keep asking for check stubs and I'm getting nothing but excuses. My processors reached out to you 99,000 times and you can't get it, or you don't know, or or you sending me some jacked up screenshot that I can't read, listen, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. As an underwriter, I'm finna kick that back. I said, give me a check stub. Give me a check stub, something. And we will do a verification of employment. So if you are lying and you got your homeboy covering for you at his auto detail shop, you're going to need some check. I need some check stubs from Bob's Detailing. I need check stubs. It's not going to happen. If you are only getting paid by Cash App, you getting paid under the table, you're going to have a problem because your income has to be verified. Your income has to be verified. And not only does your income have to be verified, you need to be filing income taxes on it. I can't tell you how many people will come and say, yeah, I'm trying to get a loan. I want to buy a house, da. Okay, cool. What you got? Where's your tax returns? Oh, I ain't filed taxes since 2007. What you want me to do with that? That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. Just like in the last video when I'm talking about their credit, it's their income also. If you got somebody that's going to be going on this loan with you, have they filed their taxes? Don't get your head blown off because you didn't do the homework ahead of time. And then they like, well, girl, we can't do nothing. We can't do nothing with this person. They ain't filed no taxes. They haven't filed no tax. I have no idea what their income is. Get your income documents together. Get your income documents together. Make sure your taxes have been filed and they are up to date. Can I owe the IRS and buy a house? Yes, you can. You're going to need to make a payment arrangement. It's one of two ways. You're either going to have to pay off the IRS either prior to closing or at closing. That's up to the investor, the actual person who's lending the money. That's their call. But your underwriter will let you know whether it has to be paid prior to or at closing, for one. Or if, let's say, you owe the IRS and you are not able to pay it off in a lump sum, as I just described, you can set up a payment arrangement with the IRS. And as long as you have made 3 of those monthly said payments already, and we see the history where you paid it, then yes, you can close, as long as that payment that payment will be included in your DTI. And as long as your DTI still works, which is our next video, debt to income is going to be the next video in this series. As long as that payment works within your debt to income, you can still buy. Okay. Just like I discussed in the first video about credit, you've got judgments. Maybe you made a payment arrangement on that judgment. You can still buy as long as you are making payments on that judgment. You have an agreed upon arrangement in writing about how you're paying that balance off. And we see history, we see evidence where you've made those payments and it still works in your DTI. Yes, you can. But these are the things that you need to know about ahead of time. So that way, because not everything is going to be on your credit report as far as your debts is concerned. Let me say that one more time. Everything's not on your credit report. Okay? So sometimes if you know that the person that you're going on the loan with may have some issues, pull their credit report before. Have a conversation with folks. Have a conversation. I've had married couples who thought that one person had paid off all of their child support and they hadn't, and it was still coming out their check. Okay. I've had people who were going in on a loan together, and one of them had several DUIs from the past, and they were still paying lawyers. They were still paying the court. They were still doing all of this. Again, don't assume anything about the person if they're going on a loan with you. Don't assume anything. Ask to see it. Be like, sit down, have that hard conversation. I know sometimes talking about money, it gets make it a little crunchy. My word is crunchy. But you need to have those conversations. because you don't know what their income is. You thinking, let's say you're gonna get your daddy to co-sign for you. Oh yeah, my daddy, he still work for the railroad. He make good money. He may be just working part-time. He may have been demoted. He may have took a different position that was less stressful for him, but he's still at the railroad, but he may be making less money. I'm telling y'all, everything I tell y'all is from stuff I have seen. And then you looking shell shocked because you thinking, he making 125 a year and he making 60 or 75, but it's better for him. You see what I'm saying? Sometimes you don't know what all is going on in somebody else's house, in somebody else's life, So make sure that you get your income straight. Down to the T how much you make. And I'm talking gross. I'm not talking net. Again, I'm talking gross. I'm not talking net. The other things you need to worry about calculating is, if you been side gigging, you Uber Eats, Lyft, Shipped, any of the, y'all, you're doing the app thing. Have you reported that on your taxes? Have you reported that on your taxes? A lot of times, I've rarely seen it work for you with the gig economy stuff, because that is not a W-2 job. That is work as you want. It's a beautiful thing. Don't get me wrong. You making money, but when it comes time to counting it for a mortgage, let me say this: the mortgage underwriting in general is still 20 years behind. I'm just gonna be honest with you. The algorithms and the underwriting models have not been updated to account for that. So since there's no guidance on how to count that, it doesn't count. I'm not saying it's fair. I'm just telling you what it is. So if you have a part-time job, let's say you work at Walmart in the evening or whatever, and you get a W-2 from Walmart, you need to be on that job 2 years before that part-time income can count. Again, I don't make the rules. I'm just telling you what the rules are. Get your income straight. If you are salaried, then just know that you just gonna need your W-2s and your check stubs, okay? If you are hourly and you get overtime has to be counted a separate way. If you regularly get overtime as an underwriter, there's different ways I have to calculate that income. So don't think that it's all automatically going to count. Let's say you work on average 10 hours of overtime a week. Those 10 hours are going to be counted separately. They're counted differently. Okay. So, and you've got to have a history of getting the overtime. Like if you normally you get 10 hours of overtime a week or so many hours a month. And we can see a history of, every time. Mm-hmm. Like clockwork, this person gets this overtime, whatever. It's easier for me to count that. But when it's real sporadic, like Christmas season, from Black Friday on, you working 8 hours a week. Okay, but that's not going to count because that's real seasonal. There's no history of you regularly doing that overtime. Okay, if you work a seasonal job, again, we're going to take that and divide it over 12 months. If you have a landscaping job and you work, 9 months out the year, and then you don't work at that, we're going to have to spread that out over 12 months. There's a whole lot that goes into calculating your income, people. You need to do this ahead of time. You've got to do it ahead of time and figure out what exactly is your income, because you thinking your income is this. And so you can afford a house up here. But when the underwriter actually looks at and calculates according to how these lenders want that income calculated, your income may be down here. And you can't afford this right here because you're right here. Because there's so much of that income that is really disqualified. Now, it's wonderful when it comes to paying your down payment, your closing costs. Yeah, you can use that money all day long, but it may not count towards your monthly income. It's your monthly income that you need to worry about. And make sure that your tax returns are filed and are up to date. One more thing for those of you who may be in sales and you get bonuses or stuff like that. Again, we've got to see a history of how have you received that before? How much do you normally receive as a bonus? Is it quarterly? Is it monthly? Is it this? Is it that? There's a whole lot that goes into calculating your income. My best advice to you is to get all your documents together, your check stubs, your tax returns, any your leave and earnings statement, whatever it is it's called. Get that together and get that to a mortgage person or your mortgage originator beforehand. Have them look at it, so that way they can tell you what amount of income you're looking at, and make sure you look at the income. You actually see the income documents and the tax returns for anybody that you have partnering with you to go on these loans. All right. And again, we talked about income today, your income and other, your partner's income, who may be going on the loan with you. That was part 2. Stay tuned. Part 3 will be coming up tomorrow, where we're going to talk about your debt to income limit. Thank you. And as always, have a blessed day.